I'm Kathy Cumdump, reporting live from an $18 vegan cupcake shop in Scottsdale, Arizona, for Bitchmade News. Suburbanites across the valley are stress-drinking Chardonnay tonight and binge-posting problematic memes on Nextdoor, after reports surfaced that an emotionally erratic long-hair podcaster has successfully brought a controversial state bill before the legislature, to be voted on once the lawmakers return from a taxpayer-sponsored spring break indoctrination trip to Israel. SB 10FU seeks to fund provisions for, quote, humorless conservative racists, unquote, to be permanently deported to Scottsdale for the crime of being stupid assholes. The bill is a bit convoluted, but would essentially mean that when and as an Arizonan resident is discovered to be too ignorant, timid, and afraid to visit the high-number avenues in West Phoenix, concerned citizens would be legally allowed to permanently deport them to Scottsdale. Scottsdale wine moms and angry real estate developer dads are furious with the new bill, asserting it will put undue strain on local resources. Throngs of MIC suckling protesters were seen in front of Whole Foods holding signs with slogans like,
"It's already hard enough being white in this country, and where, hoo-hoo."
Channel Bitchmade did manage to reach the long-hair podcaster for comment, who simply said,
"Come mierda, chingate."
Reporting live from a shop selling bottled water for $8, I'm Kathy Cumdump, Channel Bitchmade News. What is up to my rapturous rabbits and quiescent koalas? Welcome to the Barbarian Noetics podcast, where we stay dedicated to the activation of the human spirit, the elevation of the human spirit, and to resisting this fucky status quo. I am, as always, your loyal host, Little Raven. And this is an episode of Barbarian Noetics Live. I am featuring a recent live stream. I spoke from the heart in the live stream about just some real talk of challenges, hurdles, the need for adaptation when it comes to being a genuinely independent creator in this age of algorithmic censorship and amidst an atmosphere of absolute hostility towards genuine freedom of expression as it pertains to the media and getting the word out and having your ideas heard. We are in an incredibly heightened time. I don't have to tell all that. And right now, more than ever, we have to doggedly assert the rights that we still are promised. Whether or not we feel we have the rights because people are being brutalized for exerting their rights, but we still have them. We do have this thing called the Constitution. It does guarantee free speech. Congress shall not abridge our freedom of speech. And it also guarantees our freedom of assembly. We are allowed to share ideas and speak our minds, and we're allowed to do it peacefully in assembly. And these rights are under absolute assault right now. I just have to speak kind of briefly about the situation right now on college campuses. I saw some footage from UCLA, and these students who are peaceably assembling in the middle of the night were attacked by pro-Zionist forces who were brutalizing them physically and psychologically, using psychological terror such as blasting the sounds of babies crying and other disturbing sounds, just like the quadcopters are doing in Gaza as we speak to psychologically terrorize the Palestinians. So too you had pro-Zionist forces using psychological terror against college students on UCLA. The cops did nothing, the university did nothing to protect these students. It's my opinion that these forces are being used as proxies by the LAPD and by extension the federal government, who are so threatened by these students using, again, flexing their constitutionally guaranteed rights that I was promised, and I take that shit to heart. You know, we have so few rights left, and if we have any chance at galvanizing genuine social change in this country, which would have positive ripple effects around the world. You know, it is actually an American privilege that people feel like they don't have to pay attention to politics or what's going on or decisions being made in their name. That is a privilege of being in the belly of the beast, in the imperial core. Everywhere else around the world, they pay a lot of attention, not because they find it interesting, but because it affects their life so dramatically. I just finished an excellent Audible by Aviva Chomsky, Noam Chomsky's daughter. It is called Central America's Forgotten History. It really should be called Central America's Erased History. And it just gets into the nitty-gritty details of what the people of Central America have been having to deal with, because specifically and precisely because of decisions being made in our name, in the imperial core, to exploit these people, to loot their resources, to create death squads and terror armies to keep the people in check, just by the most brutal means imaginable. And these are the forces that are driving the wave of migration, where you have people that feel like, well, fuck, at least I have a shot. If I go to the imperial core myself, I have a shot. But it's just a fascinating read. It really gets into like the complicated nature of migration and how oftentimes like it doesn't work out better for the migrants, and then they're kind of stuck because you can't necessarily move freely across the borders. There's not, again, the understanding of the seasonal migration that used to happen before the border became so militarized. Now you have people that it doesn't work out as well, but they feel like they have to make something because their families back home are depending on the remittances and the money sent back, and just all the levels of exploitation on every level. My opinion of states and governments, like just writ large, is just continues to plummet. It's like every time I feel like it can't go any lower, it goes lower. But so I wanted to share this live stream just because I feel like it's such an important, critical, timely topic, and we all need to flex our freedom of expression and our freedom of assembly. One of the many things that is driving me insane about this propagandistic coverage of the protests is it never mentions the scores of Jewish students who are protesting alongside the pro-Palestinian, anti-genocide protesters. Let's be very clear. These students are making a stand and having their voice heard against genocide. This is an anti-genocide protest. And thank God there's some sort of social momentum building around resisting this. I cannot handle having a genocide in my name being waged before my eyes, live streamed for everybody to see. It just makes me ill, and I can't. And it's certainly not the only genocide that has been carried out in my name, but it is the one that is happening right now, and it is in plain sight for everybody to see. And it's just because the propaganda is so thick, that is why it's so important to be able to find innovative and creative ways of getting your voice heard. And in the independent media landscape, it's just like you're facing suppression on multiple levels, algorithmic fuckery. You know, I talk about this in the live stream, so I won't get ahead of myself, but I can't stream to YouTube, you know, because I sometimes contravene the World Health Organization, so I can't stream to YouTube. So you're using like alternate platforms, and then you're even getting suppressed on the alternate platforms, and there's other like hidden, sneaky forms of suppression. So there is power in numbers, and that is what we need to build right now. We need to build numbers of people who are coming out and asserting their right to free expression. I'm always down to have a dialogue or discussion. I don't want to be in an echo chamber, so I'm always down. As long as you have that freedom of expression, then you can have the free exchange of ideas, this free market of ideas. And that's when like new ideas get hatched. You know, when two things come together, it creates a third thing. But you can't have any sort of movement whatsoever if everyone's either in an echo chamber, subjected to state propaganda and accepting it unquestioningly, or just being suppressed, not just algorithmically, but in the case of these students, physically getting beaten by these proxy forces in the middle of the night. I saw the footage from Emory University, a middle-aged, tiny thing, middle-aged woman professor of economics saw one of her students being zip-tied and brutalized on the ground by the cops, went to inquire, and then she herself was tackled, head slammed. This was on CNN. I was just like, what am I seeing right now? It really pulled my heartstrings. Like, that woman could have been my mom. You know, my mom was a nursery school teacher, God rest her soul. She wasn't a professor, but it's like similar vibe, you know, just like this small middle-aged woman who was just having concerns for one of her students. To see that happen to her and to hear the tone of the sergeant that brutalized her, like, you get on the floor right now, you get down right now. It's like, Jesus, dude. This is insane. We all have to speak out. We all have to come together, and we have to resist this very nefarious effort to paint these protesters as somehow guilty of hate speech because they're anti-genocide, or guilty of anti-Semitism because they're anti-genocide. Again, it's never dealt with that so many of these protesters are Jewish themselves, and they're taking a stand, a principled stand, based on what I understand are the core tenets of Judaism, which is it's not okay to commit genocide. So, you know, anytime you have a nation state, especially if it's a nation state that you identify with and they're committing genocide, it's really everybody's duty to speak out. So I give a lot of props to the Jewish students, Jewish Voice for Peace, all the Jewish forces out there that are joining this fight and joining the anti-genocide coalition. So I have nothing but love for everyone out there. You know I get fired up. I'm dealing with like the trauma of just witnessing this, not to mention the day-to-day challenges that everyone faces, you know, and I do get fired up. And I have to continue to stay true to my inner purpose of speaking my mind and speaking my truth. And I beseech everyone to do the same right now and support these brave kids who are really up against some very powerful, very aggressive forces trying to silence them. The anti-genocide voice, the voice for the freedom of all people, and the voice for the freedom of the Palestinian people will never be silenced. It will just continue to gain strength, even if it has to go underground to a certain degree because of state repression. So that was a much longer intro than I thought I was going to make, but I just have a lot to say right now. And this live stream, you will hear there is a little bit of audio glitching in the live stream. It's not horrific or distracting or anything, but I always just like to mea culpa when that happens. There's some audio glitches. No reason for it this time whatsoever. Everything was set up perfectly fine in my system. It's either the fault of my ancient laptop or it's Kyle at the NSA, and neither one of those situations are going to be resolved in the immediate future. If it's Kyle causing the audio glitches and fucking with my shit all the time, I hope you learned something, my friend, and I hope you come around, and I would be open to a dialogue with anybody. So certainly I'm not trying to alienate my listeners at the NSA. Let's work together and resuscitate this republic. If it was the fault of my ancient laptop, I'm not yet ready to invest in a new machine. I have a very complicated relationship with technology. My mother, God rest her soul, really instilled from me from a very young age. It was her fervent belief that technology was essentially satanic. And I've had a hard time shaking that. And even though I appreciate the things that technology allows, such as this podcast, I'm just not ready yet to invest any of my hard-earned frog skins on a new laptop. But you know, if I have to, that time will come. Just like if I have to register for Twitter because they're fucking with my shit even on Rockfin, even on the free speech platform, then I guess I'll have to, because I have to continue to get the voice out. I have to continue to spread this message. So that's it, and that's that for the intro, everyone. I hope you enjoy this Barbarian Noetics Live. If you don't know, now you know. I be doing live streams left and right on my Rockfin channel, rockfin.com/barbarianyakfest. I put my stuff out for free, which is one of the reasons why my videos aren't highlighted like the other ones, because I don't put anything on premium. I put it on for free so that you don't have to subscribe to Rockfin to listen to my live streams. So rockfin.com/barbarianyakfest. Follow me on Instagram. I usually put it in the notes section on Insta when I go live. My Instagram is barbarian_noetics. All the support links are in the description. But most importantly, I just appreciate everyone sharing some headspace with me and tuning in and supporting the show. All right, that's it and that's that. Let's go, everybody. Peace.
Never let your enemy tell you how many of you there are. Never let the man that you're against form your opinions. This is the trick that's played on everyone who's oppressed. The first thing, an occupation, when you have a revolution in the country, the first thing you take over is the radio. And then you start telling the people, everybody, the war is over. And so all of them surrender. No, they believe that thing right there. And once they take that over, they start telling you where you are and where they are, and you fall right in line. It's plain thought control. The majority of the American people aren't segregationists. That the majority of the American people aren't imperialists. But the government is, the structure is, the power faction is. So, how then do all the majority go along with it? Because those who sit in power over the television, over the radio, and over the press is constantly telling those who are the masses how free they are. And how this they are and how that they are.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Barbarian Yak Fest. Thanks so much for joining. I am riding solo tonight, and I am your loyal host. And people always ask, are these feather boas? They are. And why? Because branding, baby. I'm going to talk about how hard it is to be an independent creator. We got to think outside the box. I'm the little raven, so I got feathers, multicolored, because I'm a multifoliate kind of person. I just want to start off by saying just thank you deeply, genuinely, to the day ones out there and the people that join, you know, week in, week out, with or without Deus, with other guests, like continuing to support the show. I just really do appreciate it. The general motif of this solo stream is just going to be some real talk, some honesty about the challenges, the very, very real, difficult challenges of just trying to be an independent creator in this landscape here in 2024 in the United States, in the belly of the beast. And algorithmic censorship, other forms of censorship, self-censorship, all these things have a cumulative effect. And I always believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. I think that speaking openly and honestly about what's going on is always the move. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. I also, I have a couple clips. Well, I have one clip I want to show you guys, and then I'm going to try something new because I'm riding solo tonight. So I'm going to share screen at some point, and I'm going to put some like lo-fi, like instrumental, non-intrusive music kind of in the background. And then when I need to take a break to have some of my hape or to maybe smoke a little bit or to have a drink of water, then I will play DJ and like put the music up so you're just not staring at me, and we'll see how that goes. And I appreciate any feedback. I am monitoring the chat, so I will respond in real time to any questions or inquiries or whatever. And let's get into it. Let's start hot and heavy. So I titled this, something, the ethical quandaries of being an independent creator. But if you notice in the thumbnail, I did write fuckery at Rokfin ? And it is a question mark, but I am a little bit concerned about some developments and kind of like putting this out there too to see if like any of y'all have thought similar thoughts or just observed similar oddities. Let me lay the baseline for this to say, like, I rely on Rokfin for my video channel. I rely on Rokfin, and I've been very loyal to Rokfin in terms of like giving them tons of free marketing. I always like give them props for helping to preserve free speech, because it's pretty much, for me, it's just seemingly, I don't want to say impossible. Nothing is impossible. But as part of the challenges of being like independent out here on these streets is you have to keep a roof over your head at the same time. So like for me, that means I've had to work a part-time job, customer service, doing other things, anything to like scrape together some money. I certainly I can't, afford a producer. Having a producer would be amazing, but I cannot afford that at this time. And so it's like I have to do all the production myself. This isn't trying to be like this like woe is me thing. This is a practical sort of like analysis of just how difficult it is to try to put out genuinely independent media. So genuinely independent, not like towing these unspoken lines, not like avoiding certain topics for this and that, not having to do the YouTube game where you have to like say that the jabs are safe and effective, even though you don't believe that they're safe and effective, like that whole thing. For me, I cannot my videos were getting taken down off YouTube, and the last 2 times I've tried to stream to YouTube, it just doesn't let me. I'm not allowed to stream to YouTube. I'll try again at some point, and maybe it'll change. But YouTube has become it's made like an impassable barrier for my type of content, our type of content here on the YakFest. If for the OG YakFest heads, the Yak Packers out there, remember Dr. Sylvie. She and I would get into it. We started the YakFest in the height of like the COVID mania, and we would talk real talk about CC filings, gene editing, all that type of shit. And YouTube was just yanking those videos, because anything that contravenes the WHO, which, as we all know, is a pretty much fully owned subsidiary of the Gates quote foundation, and foundations are clever ways of moving money around and clever ways of trying to mask nefarious agendas, started by Rockefeller. Rockefeller really pioneered that method of founding a foundation and then saying that you're this great philanthropist, but you're doing it for all these nefarious ends. That's who runs the WHO. So if I say anything afoul of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they yank your shit off YouTube. Then there is Rumble. I don't know if any of y'all have ever tried to like stream on Rumble. I find it very non-intuitive. And Rumble also has algorithmic fuckery, just like YouTube has. So on top of YouTube, like, sorry, by the way, that I feel like the glare is like really bad in my glasses, but we're just gonna have to roll with it for now. So not only does YouTube just yanks down my videos and doesn't allow me to stream, then on top of it, there's the algorithmic suppression that happens. And the algorithm is always shifting, always changing, always adapting. The algorithm is completely at the mercy of like state actors who just want to call up YouTube and say, hey, suppress this, ban that, do this, do that. I cannot stand Elon Musk's flippant remark, freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. I cannot stand that. I find it emblematic of his true nature, that he's not this free speech warrior. He may be like the best. People might be able to put the most stuff on Twitter, but that says it all. Freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. Freedom of reach is freedom. That's this amazing free market that we're all supposed to worship. Freedom of reach means like laissez-faire information economy, information market, where ideas are being able to be freely shared, freely digested, and then either accepted or rejected by people after they do their own education and research into the topic themselves. But the information, if it's suppressed, it's putting your thumb on the scale. And so that's what I mean about being like a genuinely independent creator, not catering to sponsors. I've lost sponsors. They won't tell me exactly why, but it was right when I started posting on my podcast very openly in favor of Palestinian freedom and against the genocide. Sponsors don't like that. They get scared. That puts even more pressure on like the dynamic of. So for me, I have quote solved that by having this part-time job and being a minimalist, just someone, I don't need like a whole lot to be happy. And so I do this. This is like a labor of love for me. This is like, I feel it's one of the most important things we can do as humans at all times, and especially now, is to use our voice and speak out and speak our truth boldly and fearlessly, and let the chips fall where they may. What frustrates me so much about the algorithmic suppression is that it does not allow it does not allow the chips to fall where they may. It's putting your thumb on the scale of where the chips fall. And that is a form of like behavior management. It's just fucking nefarious, and I cannot stand it. So Rumble I find incredibly non-intuitive. Now let's talk about Twitter. I always refuse. I will forever refuse to call it X. I always call it Twitter because I'm petty. What can I say? But so I've had some friends and like really smart people who, they make the fair point. Well, why don't you use Twitter? And I have ethical reasons for not wanting to use Twitter. So I am a huge admirer of the work of Whitney Webb, and she has looked extensively at things like the one app to rule them all that like Elon was talking about for a long time, and how this X project this is not like a new concept. This has been in the works through some of his funders at DARPA and some other state actors. They've wanted to create this mystery app called X, and they want to use that as like a way to try to concentrate everyone's social media as much as possible and then start putting the crackdowns on it. I'm not an expert on all the fuckery going on Twitter because I don't use Twitter, but that's the reason why I don't use Twitter. It's because I don't trust it. I don't want to have to pay for something. I think you have to pay for shit now to use it, or you have to pay for like to get your message out. And also I don't want to register for it. Like, just as like a human being who tries to like preserve my privacy as much as possible. This is my face like popping out right now in this live stream, but you know what I'm saying? I don't want to register for shit that I don't vibe with. It makes me feel gross. And, you know, will I maybe change my mind about this if certain circumstances get worse or don't change? You know, I'm always open to, I don't ever want to be calcified or fossilized in my thinking. But it's not just like that I'm too lazy or too stubborn to use Twitter. It's that I don't trust the platform. I don't want to register for it. And I don't want to start putting a bunch of eggs in that basket. So for all those reasons, I rely on Rokfin for my video channel. I have my podcast that I put on my RSS feed. And thank God for the RSS feed. I think that the RSS feed is going to become increasingly important moving forward. For those who don't know what the RSS feed, it's the, I don't know the technical jargon, but basically it's something that you typically have to like pay a certain amount for to have an RSS feed. Maybe there's a way to get a free one. There probably is. But I use a hosting service for my RSS feed. And then when I post an episode of my podcast, then it shoots it out via the RSS feed to all the different podcast platforms. I have to register for the platforms, but then it shoots it out to all the platforms at once. So it's a really good way for people who are like doing their own production and all that kind of stuff to save time. I don't have to post the podcast to all the different podcast player apps. I just post it to my host site and then it shoots it out. And the RSS feed is going to be increasingly, in my perception, increasingly critical to protect the freedom of. Because right now, knock on wood, that seems to still be like the best way to get stuff out, like get the controversial stuff out. And with podcasts, it's like, as long as people are able to find, as long as you're searchable on the podcast apps, then people can find your audio at least. The video channel is something different though, and that's, you know, I enjoy doing the live streams, and I think it's good to have like a video presence, and I rely entirely on Rokfin for my video presence. Because not allowed to stream to YouTube because I contravene the World Health Organization. Rumble's incredibly non-intuitive and complicated. I tried streaming to Instagram one time. It gave me a panic attack. Everything went haywire. It almost like derailed the whole stream. That's what happened when I tried to go live to Instagram. And I don't trust Twitter. So therefore, like, Rokfin means a lot to me. And for that reason, I've been very loyal. I recommend Rokfin to people. You know, every time I recommend my stream, I'm recommending Rokfin to people. And I always like give them a shout out for helping to preserve genuinely free speech, because they have been pretty excellent, I would say, in terms of the free speech aspect. Rokfin has been excellent. So I've been doing the video channel now for, I don't know, maybe 2.5 years. And in that time, you know, I've been able to correspond as needed with like the customer service. Also, when I first got approved for my Rokfin channel, there was like an application that went through. And so, you know, you develop like rapport with the people at the organization that you're working with. And so I've had like a really awesome relationship with all the folks at Rokfin. They always get back to me. They're always very respectful. They always try to help me. I've, you know, been very like studious about reporting all the bugs that everyone always talks about. I know everyone watching this on Rokfin knows about the bugs, and I've been extremely like compassionate and patient about the bugs, because I genuinely haven't thought that the bugs have been coming from Rokfin. My thought has been that the bugs have been coming from external actors that are trying to sabotage Rokfin, because Rokfin has been like such a torch for genuinely free expression. I feel that all the bugs are like a result of possibly like external meddling or just trying to fuck with the platform itself. And my mentality has always been like, well, let's just battle through it. So in terms of like, if you're like a user, if you're on the user side of things, that means that your shit's gonna crash, the stream crashes. Like I hear this from people all the time. Yamura is always telling me that the stream is crashing, especially on her desktop, and you have to reload the stream, which I know is like it's like a point of anxiety when you're on a road trip or something like that, and you don't have the service to reload, so you're just hoping that the stream stays stable. But these are all like, for me, these are totally reasonable inconveniences to have to face for the invaluable service that they've been providing, for just not censoring, for doing the simple thing of just not censoring, of not putting thumbs on the scale, of not algorithmically suppressing. So I come to you tonight at a time of like this is just a very heightened time here, many places around the world and in the empire. And the notion of like what is allowable speech and what is not is like at the fore right now. So I'm not talking tonight about what is going on right now on college campuses across the US, but I'm sure many of y'all have been at least somewhat aware of the story. There's an enormous amount of propaganda around those stories right now coming out of the mainstream press, that trying to paint these protesters that are using their freedom of speech and their freedom of assembly, two constitutionally guaranteed freedoms, to take a stand against an ongoing genocide and an ongoing ethnic cleansing of an occupied population by an apartheid regime. So you have an apartheid regime that is occupying and committing genocide, and these are students at campuses, which historically have always been a hotbed and like a source of light, a source of positivity in terms of young people finding their voice, finding the power of coming together, the power of making that assembly, that peaceful assembly, and speaking their mind, taking a stand against these injustices. Young people oftentimes have more idealism than a lot of folks as we get older, because as we get older, it's just so easy to fall into cynicism, apathy, complacency, or just straight up like misery and hopelessness. And, like young folks, as Max Blumenthal said earlier today on Judge Napolitano's show, he said, like, this is the flower of America's youth is at these protests. And you have an apartheid regime 6,000 miles away inserting itself into our American body politic and slandering these protesters as anti-Semites, as terrorists, as disturbers of the peace, and it calling on American police forces to like suppress these students. So a lot of people have been drawing parallels about what happened with Kent State at the shooting. I mean, I really hope it doesn't come to that point, but this is insane. This is absolutely insane. And so all of this happens like as an independent creator, like you operate within this greater landscape, and the issue of freedom of speech is just absolutely at the fore right now, and it has to be protected at all costs. We have to continue to use the rights that we have, and we have to continue to insist upon our freedoms that we have been told that we're guaranteed. I know as well as y'all do that the what is told to us is not the truth, but at the same time, we can still stand up and be like, no, we know our rights. These are our rights, and we're not okay with a ongoing genocide that's being live streamed in front of our eyes. People are horrified. By the way, a ton of Jewish people are horrified, and a ton of Jewish students are participating in these protests. So to try to wash all of them as anti-Semites is absurd on its face. And I give a lot of props to the Jewish students who are standing with Palestine. Shows a lot of integrity and courage. And I give props to all the students out there, and I wish them safety. But so Rokfin lately it's been behaving differently. And so I'm just a little bit alarmed, confused. I'm hoping that the situation clarifies itself. I don't know if there's like well, I know there is. There is definitely some sort of turnover, if not managerial, then with the staff, with the people. And I know this because both of my contacts that have been like my Rokfin contacts that I go to when I have questions, concerns, or anything like that, they're both AWOL. One of them I tried to send an email to and I got an email back saying that basically this email's forbidden. This person no longer works at the company anymore. So there's clearly some type of turnover taking place. And the support line, the main support email for Rokfin is just ignoring my inquiries now, just completely ignoring me. I hope that I get proven wrong, that later tonight or tomorrow I'll get an email back, but I'm not holding my breath because it's been several days. And, you know, I'm not like, I'm a crazy person, but I'm not like that type of crazy person who's just going to keep emailing people. I get the point. Like, I'll send an email and then I'll send another email. And then if I'm ignored, it's like, well, I'm being ignored. And I'm just looking for clarity on certain things that I won't bore you guys with because it's a little bit in the weeds. But I noticed that my videos are not highlighted in the way that other videos are. And let's not just make this about me and my tiny little channel, because I am under no illusions. I understand that my channel is a tiny channel in the grand scheme of things. But I do have, you know, like almost 3,000 subscribers on Rokfin. And so for me, I'm like proud of that. It's taken a long time to build that. And I want to continue to grow it. And it's by far like it's the most established video platform that I have. And historically, and I still do believe in it, because they still are allowing for free speech, knock on wood again, they're still not censoring. But there's multiple forms of censorship, and the algorithmic fuckery and like the fucking with how things are presented. Are you easy to find? Are you not easy to find? Is it clear when you've posted a new video? Is it not clear when you've posted a new video? These are the things that have changed recently at the same time that I realize there's this turnover of staff. So all I want is just a little bit of clarity. Just a couple sentences. Like I'm wondering if maybe there's new rules that say you need a certain amount of followers in order for your videos to be highlighted for people. Maybe it's because I put all of my content for free. You can find a few of my videos I put premium, because I've done that out of like respect for Rokfin, honestly, to be like, well, I understand that it's better for the platform if this is premium and then people have to sign up in order to view it. But at the same time, like it's better for my heart and it's better for all y'all. And it's what I feel to do is to put it out for free, because a lot of the people that watch the stream are not trying to sign up for Rokfin. You know, they're not trying to sign up for something else. They're not trying to pay another certain amount each month for anything. They just want to see the content. And because I believe in what I'm doing and it comes from my heart, like I want people to have access to the content. So that's why I put all my stuff out for free. And if it turns out that videos are not highlighted because they're free, then at least I know. But I just am being completely ignored. And that's what makes me concerned. And it'd be, you know, to be ignored by like the main support line as a loyal creator, and I also am like a premium member. I've been a premium member of Rokfin for a really long time. Like I'm a supporter, and I'm just looking for clarity. And so I think the more people are aware of this, the more chance we will have clarity. And we just have to like watch things closely, because we have to like hold institutions, platforms, everyone accountable right now. So making it not just about me, I've noticed recently that on the gray zone Rokfin numbers have been like way down. They've been like a half or a third of what they usually are. And this happened suddenly. It's like overnight, their numbers just like diminished drastically. And they have the same thing, that their videos are not highlighted after they're published, which they've always been. I mean, the Gray Zone is one of it's like a major creator. It's a major catch for Rokfin. The Gray Zone is streaming to Rokfin. There's no reason whatsoever why their videos would not be highlighted, unless there's some sort of external factor, or God forbid, state actors or something like that are putting their thumb on the scale. That, you know, I knew that probably this time would come for Rokfin, because it's been kind of like a light in the wilderness for just blanket having like a principled stance of we're not going to censor. I knew that this time might come when there was a push to like really do more than just fuck with the streams, do more than just make the glitches, do more than just crash everyone's shit, but really like make a move. And so this is why I'm bringing attention to this. And there's power in numbers. The more people kind of pay attention, the more people reach out. I don't know if any of y'all have tried to connect with the main support line, support@rokfin.com. Hopefully you're not being ignored. I mean, I don't know if there's just like a total breakdown in like the running of the thing, but that's not good either if that's the case. And because there is such a push right now to delineate in this society what is allowable speech and what is not, and to somehow conflate people peaceably assembling to protest a genocide, to conflate that in any way with like domestic terrorism or this or that is absolutely fucked. And it sets a horrible precedent. And, you know, the things that empires do abroad, they eventually bring on home to their own people. And so like all the infrastructure that has been built since the direct energy weapons took down the Twin Towers and the Building 7 on 9/11, the infrastructure that has been built to, quote, fight terror around the world, that infrastructure's got to do something, baby. And eventually empires collapse in on themselves. And all of that infrastructure, I fear, is primed to like start to target the American people themselves, the domestic fucking population. And we, the people, are the only thing standing between us and just total unmasked tyranny. You know, like we do live in a duopoly. We do live in a late stage capitalist hellscape. But it's like the mask is completely coming off and we have to stand together, because I don't plan on taking it lying down. I hope you don't either. And we have to stand together and like continue to doggedly assert our rights, even in the face of the most intimidating and brutalizing persecution. So that's why I met to the protesters. I want to make a quick point about the protesters. There was some kind of like memes and stuff going back and forth in the truth community a few days ago about I think it was the staff. I think it was at a college in New York. It might have been Columbia, but the staff had formed a ring around the Gaza Solidarity Camp, and they had masks on, and they had masks on outdoors. And y'all know how I feel about that. I think it's ridiculous, absurd. Probably most of you do too. And it's easy to instinctively kind of just be like, wow, you look like a clown. You're wearing a mask outside. I think it's important to remember that these professors, teachers, and whoever else was standing in this ring, these people are also under an incredible amount of pressure and are receiving threats from the violent Zionist forces that are trying to shut all this down and throw everyone in fucking pits. And so it's possible that they were covering their faces to try to preserve their anonymity as much as possible and to prevent against facial recognition. So just a quick reminder, like reminding myself to don't always just, I mean, I don't think it's good to be judgmental in general in life. I know sometimes it's very hard not to be, but it's easy to just be like, wow, they're wearing a mask outside, they look like a clown. But if it's in the environment of a protest of any kind, dude, I wear a friggin' bandana when I go to a protest because there's drones hovering overhead, and I don't want them to be biometrically analyzing my shit as much as possible. So just keep that in mind as well. Y'all ready for this clip of... This is just classic. I know you guys have probably seen this already, but this is the leader of the free world, everyone. He's in campaign mode. And let me tell you, this is some stirring stuff. It's stirring for the wrong reasons as far as he and the Democratic Party are concerned. The duopoly. Why even call it Democrat Republic? Friggin' duopoly bullshit. But look at this friggin' asshole right now. This is fantastic.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. 4 more years.
Imagine what we can do next.
4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. Pause.
Oh shit! I gotta stop that. I could watch that over and over again. We'll stop it there. He's so concerned about getting the teleprompter right. You can see he's like really using all of his, and they already shot him up with the cognitive enhancement drugs. So he's already got the cognitive enhancement drug right in the neck. This is the best he can be, folks. This is the best this man can do. He has to hold it together for 15 minutes to make a stump speech in obviously friendly territory. These people are all ready to be like good little sheep, like an Animal Farm. Bah, 4 more years. Bah, bah. All he has to do is just read like a sentence or two from the teleprompter, and it takes so much of his dwindling, quiescent mental acumen to do so that he reads pause. 4 more years. Pause. Man, so I sent that to my best friend, and he was just like, holy shit, like that's actually legitimately scary. I'm like, yeah, it is. I mean, this has been happening for a while, but yeah, it is. He's like, he was in disbelief. He's just like, well, who's actually running the show then? I'm like, aha, that's the question. That's the $1 million question. Who's actually running the show? I think most of the Yak Packers and people viewing the stream know the answer to that is the permanent bureaucracy, the intelligence agencies, the donor class, and the top of the pyramid motherfuckers are all jockeying for control of this empty shell of a man who reads out the pause when all he had to do was just be silent and let the clap for him. He can't even do that. I found that a very short, disturbing, but poignant video of Joseph Robinette Biden. I'm going to see if I can put on this music now and talk over it, and so I can give my voice a little break too. I just do have a couple more things I would like to share. All right, so just enjoy the beats for a second. I'm going to take a quick refresher, and I'll be right back with you guys. Bring the volume down on the background beats, and I'm just going to speak for a little bit longer here, but I did want to talk about the aspect of the ethical quandaries that come up when all you want to do is be a genuinely independent media creator. And I hope this stream isn't lagging, because all of a sudden my intro claiming to have issues. But so I'm gonna just briefly tell the story of why I feel like why I am so dedicated to independent media, and why I feel like it has such a critical role in the future that we're writing, because we are writing the future all the time. The future is unwritten. In many ways, the future doesn't even exist. It's a figment of our imagination. All we have is this current moment now. And we're also like leaving our legacies. Like this is, we're all gonna pass one day. And it's like, I feel that we're gonna have like some sort of review, like a life review type thing after we die. And also on our deathbed, we're gonna be doing our own life review and just kind of looking back on like, how did I spend this precious gift of time? Like it is such a precious gift. Nothing is guaranteed. And each day, like as much as possible, I really try to take a few moments to just appreciate this objectively one of a kind chance we have at this thing called existence. And like there's so many challenges and struggles, but there's so many moments of beauty and so much potential. And we see the potential in nature, in how like every spring, no matter how fucked up everything was in the human world that year, the flowers come up again, the trees bud again, and you see this amazing resurgence of life and the affirmation of new life. And in many ways, like every day when we wake up in the morning, it's an affirmation of new life, and it's a chance to make something happen. It's a chance to create art. It's a chance to create content. In my case, I consider my podcast art, and also independent media and art at the same time. So my whole life, I've always wanted, my parents instilled in me in a young age that we should try to leave the world a better place than how we found it. And that's always really resonated with me, and it's one of the main maxims I live my life by. I want to feel like I did everything I could to leave the world a better place than how I found it, than how I was brought into it. And so, I had all these like internal struggles of like, well, what does that mean? I used to pray about it, especially I went through a really hardcore Buddhist phase, and I still, I guess, would consider myself a Buddhist, but I'm doing isms at all right now. This is my ism-free era. But I used to pray about it, like, how can I be most effective at leaving the world a better place than how I found it? How can I make my little node of energy, my special chakra system here, my little individuality, soul, how can I apply that most effectively to the world to leave it in a better shape than how I found it? That took me on a very circuitous journey. I won't get into all of it. I discovered the horrors of the nonprofit industrial complex because I've had just like probably, God, I don't know, like 6-7 different nonprofit jobs in my life, and they've all ended in the exact same way, which is me almost having a nervous breakdown because the work just gets piled on top of you, and all you're doing is begging for money half the time. You're just trying to write grants and trying to beg for money, and like then it's like whatever the mission of the nonprofit was, that gets like waylaid, and then you have like the big nonprofits that have tons of money, but rather than actually just use it for the mission, they fucking embezzle funds. There's corruption up the ass. There's like boards of directors at these big nonprofits. I'm so tempted to name names right now, but I'm not going to now. Anyway, maybe later. There's boards of directors. These people are just in it for the clout. They're in it for being able to go to the cocktail parties and tell themselves how important they are and have other people tell them, oh, you're doing such an amazing job making the world a better place. Meanwhile, they're just siphoning donations off to their friggin' silver bullion fund or whatever the fuck. And it's disgusting. So I was completely disillusioned with the nonprofit industrial complex. I went to get my master's degree in Sydney, Australia, and I got it in international social development. Before all y'all out there are making fun of me like, oh, great, I bet that was a great use of money. It wasn't. I got loans out, and I still have the loans, and it did not translate into me making money. But the reason why I did it, because I thought at that time in my life, I was a young, naive young man, and I thought that the United Nations was a force for good. I thought that the United Nations was actually in it to win it and really try to make the world a better place. This was before I learned about the League of Nations and the fucking unspeakable fuckery, and how half the time like these agencies are involved in some of the most like heinous shit against the people that they're actually trying to serve. And so through this, because I did get an education, I got an education and all this stuff. Like the education was like telling me just like horror stories about like USAID and how they'll just like fly in for a photo op amidst like unspeakable carnage that their intelligence agencies stirred up and are causing and funding and arming, and just fly, literally drop in for a photo op and leave. And like America, there's all this money going to them and the money goes to nothing at all. It just goes to presentation. And how at refugee camps, when the UNHCR bigwig would come through, they would like, even though half the people at the camp wouldn't have like adequate drinking water, they would take water and spray it on the sand of the camps for the motorcade of the UN bigwig so that they wouldn't get dust on their windshield. And how refugee camps are basically just like massive warehouses for humans, and how people get their identification taken when they enter a refugee camp. So they're truly stateless people, and they fall prey to horrible, heinous shit that happens in the camp itself, because you have power brokers within the camp itself. So all the horrible shit about misogyny and using women's bodies as a weapon of war and all that shit go down in plain sight in these camps. They just become these kind of like lawless zones. And there are really good people that work to help, right? So I'm not trying to shit talk the individual hardworking people who really do help to do the very best they can to keep people at least alive in the refugee camps. But as I was learning about this, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? This is because the number of refugees is increasing all the time in the world. It's not decreasing, it's always increasing. So the problem is just becoming worse and worse and worse. So you have all these agencies that are dedicated to supposedly, isn't the ultimate goal self-determination? Like the ultimate goal would be liberation. The ultimate goal is resettling refugees and allowing them to pursue their own lives. But that doesn't happen. The refugees just stay in these camps. I mean, look at the Palestinian refugees. Like all of Gaza is like, it's a massive refugee camp, and you have like multi-generational refugees. So like kids get born in the refugee camps, they get raised in the refugee camps, they get raised in the culture of the camps, everything. So it's like, what is the root cause of it is, this could be such a long thing. Very simply, the root cause of it is war. And then the root cause of war is like resource extraction, resource exploitation. We all are very familiar with the empire's role in that. So as long as there is a drive for war and a drive to take resources for an ever increasing refugee crisis. And so it's like, what I came to at that point in my life, I felt shell-shocked after this experience, this education. I mean, my professors were these amazing women, and they would often break down in tears, like just recounting the horrors that they witnessed in these camps. And I did not feel like it was a good move or a sustainable move on like an emotional, spiritual level for me to start a career just maintaining this status quo of the refugee situation. I wanted to apply myself to the bottleneck of the point of like, what is actually causing this horror show to continue? And Malcolm X would always talk about the power of the media. He would always drill that home. He would say, never underestimate the power of the media. And he would say how dangerous it is when the media is controlled by the ruling class, is controlled by the donor class. So there you have the priceless importance of genuinely independent media, because the genuinely independent media can push back against the propaganda of the corporate media, of the legacy media, of the mainstream media. It's gotten to a point now in this country where it's absolutely clownish. You turn on the corporate news, it's all X spooks. It's just X spook, X spook, X spook, just giving you, and of course, as we all know, there is no such thing as an X spook. So you have a spook just delivering straight state propaganda, just the straight dope, just right on the screen. And that is presented to us as the quote unquote news. And then you have like the two-party illusion aspect. So sure, you'll get a slightly different perspective on MSNBC. You'll get a slightly different perspective on Fox News. You'll get a slightly different perspective on CNN. But these are all working in unison by the very well-compensated behavior managers and child psychologists and all the people that work for the federal government to most effectively brainwash the people. And the name of the gentleman is escaping me. William Casey in 1984, the ex-CIA director, said, "We'll know our disinformation campaign is complete when everything the American public believes is false." And he said that with such flippant self-assuredness because he understands, just like Malcolm X did, the critical importance and nefarious potential of a media that is completely controlled. So if you don't have an independent media, you have a entirely controlled media, and that is a superhighway to the most horrific form of totalitarian oppression and tyranny. Just tyranny and oppression that we haven't even dreamed of yet because of how fucked up it is. That's what happens in a world where there's no pushback to state propaganda being presented as news, and that's why independent media is so critically important. So that's why platforms like Rockfin are so critically important, and why I continue to give them props, because we need ways to disseminate genuinely independent media. And you know, the interwebs, thankfully, is a very slippery thing. It's hard to control, and sure, there'll be new platforms popping up, you know, like weeds, hopefully. It's very hard to like completely control something like the internet, which is a source of hope for me, because the internet was created by DARPA as the military intelligence thing, and the future is unwritten on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, what will the internet be eventually? Will it end up being a net force for positivity and expression and people connecting and the sharing of ideas, or will it successfully be a completely controlled instrument of totalitarian hellscapery? And we all together are writing that future as we speak. And I'm not blind to the dangers of a cyber Polygon-like event, of a cascading series of ransomware or cyber attacks that then cause like this orchestrated shutdown of the internet that Whitney Webb warns about. I'm not blind to that. But all I can do is operate in the environment that I operate in and adapt accordingly. And we are very adaptable creatures. I would like to remind everyone to, if you have information online that you really don't want to lose, definitely download it. Download it to your devices and fucking put that shit on some flash drives and put them in a safe place, because they're any day there could be this orchestrated shutdown of the internet, and then the internet that comes back is not the internet that went off. That could happen at any time, so it's good to prepare for that now. Anyways, I just want to say thank you to everyone that continues to support the Yak Fest, who continues to support the Barbarian Noetics podcast, and who continues to support me. I, do the best I can, and it's hard sometimes to maintain that positive perspective. It's hard to maintain that optimism in the face of sometimes it just feels like obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And, when you're doing everything yourself and you're trying to keep a roof over your head, it can feel overwhelming. But I do derive strength from my own inner convictions, and I derive strength from you guys, from the supporters that I have. I have a tight-knit but very devoted following, and I really do appreciate you guys. And so let's see what happens. I'll keep you posted. Maybe I'll hear back from Rockfin after this stream. Maybe my videos will be highlighted. Maybe the Gray Zones videos will start to be highlighted again. But I'm going to keep a very close watch on who gets hired. I'm sad that my contacts are gone. That really sucks. And so I kind of feel like, like a kite in the wind right now. Just kind of like trying to do the best I can, operating the best I can, and just continuing to be like transparent about everything, I know that I'm not a huge channel. I'm just looking for a little bit of clarity. I want to know what's going on because I care about the platform and I see it as a critically important one that really needs to continue. And, you know, like I noticed like Jimmy Dore doesn't stream to Rockfin anymore. There's been some major creators that have fled. There's a lot of fuckery at Rumble. Like I feel like Rumble is YouTube for conservatives. And so I feel like all the same algorithmic suppression happens. And I know like Steve Poikonen at AM Wake Up, he has some thoughts on that as well, that his show is consistently suppressed on Rumble. I don't think Rumble's the answer. I mean, I'll make a renewed attempt to maybe try to stream there if I absolutely have to. But I want Rockfin to work out. And I want it to maintain its very laudable role as helping to carry the torch for independent creators that are just trying to have a free discourse and free exchange of ideas. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna get stuff wrong all the damn time. I'm gonna make mistakes. I have my own biases, but you can't get better if there's not a free exchange of ideas. And that's why we have to work together to protect independent media and just continue to adapt and overcome. That's all we can do. I'm gonna stop sharing this now to say goodbye to all y'all. So I hope you enjoyed those background beats, cozy Friday night lo-fi, even though it's Thursday night. And I wanted to apologize also. I had a stream scheduled with my friend who's a Jacob J. He's a really gifted tattoo artist, and we are gonna have that stream. That stream is coming. Keep an eye out for it. We just had to reschedule. He had like a leak explode in his house and just was like, fuck. I'm like, damn, that sucks. And so we had to reschedule that, but he's going to come on and talk about, he's going to tell war stories of because really being a tattoo artist is kind of like being a therapist. And we're going to talk about that. we're going to get into that. And he's going to tell some very entertaining and humorous stories of experiences that he's had, doing tattoo. He's been, amazing artist, working in the Valley for decades, and it's going to be a fun one. I have another stream. I'm Christian Yordanov, my friend and the health consultant, is going to be coming on soon. I have an exciting stream with a gentleman that I know from Hawaii who is like a tech. He's like an IT. I think he would probably take offense he's like a tech genius. This guy knows how to friggin' spin up his own servers. He knows how to do all kind of stuff. And he's going to talk to us about, for lay people, for everyday people, how we can have the best operational security on the interwebs. And he's going to talk about the challenges moving forward and talk about the role of AI in those challenges. That's going to be a really fascinating stream. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I got so much stuff planned, so stay tuned. The content is going to continue. Deus will be back on soon. I'm hoping to have Sylvie back on one of these days. She's so busy being a professor, but hoping to have her back on. And so until then, I appreciate you guys sticking with me through thick, through thin. Maybe I'll hear back from Rockfin. Let's keep this platform free and really sending out good vibes, love, and appreciation from my heart. And we'll see you next time. Much love, everybody. Peace.
If you notice on that officer's arms, he had sergeant stripes. So you can't blame this on a rookie mistake. This is a seasoned law enforcement professional. He should be relieved of his law enforcement duties. He should never be allowed to be a law enforcement officer again. She attacked nobody. She violated no rules, no regulations. This was simple physical assault on his part, and he should be charged with physical assault and convicted and do time if necessary, or at least probation, but he should never be a police officer. Police officers today on these campuses are showing up wearing military-style uniforms. They are deploying snipers on the rooftop. They are treating these students as enemies of the state. These students are American citizens or citizens of other countries coming to America because of our freedoms, the freedom of speech, and that which is accrued, the ability to express oneself, to learn, to expand your mind, to become better citizens. And this is what they're being taught, that if you speak out in defense of a cause that's not just righteous, but represents more closely American values than the values of the governors that are ordering the cops on the campus, you'll be treated as a criminal. You'll be treated as the enemy by American law enforcement officers who dress as if they're going to war, because frankly speaking, they are going to war. They're going to war against the United States Constitution, against the freedoms that our forefathers fought and died for to guarantee us. And if the American people roll over and allow this to happen, I'm not promoting violence. All I have to tell you, if that professor had been my wife and I had saw that, I'd be in jail right now and that cop would be in the hospital, because you don't allow, law enforcement officers don't get, carte blanche to go around and beat up American citizens. There has to be a reason for it. And if they are taking the law into their own hands, and they can't be law enforcement officers anymore. But we have to stop this militarization. We have to stop a culture that has police officers viewing the American public as the enemy. A lot of these officers did time in Iraq and Afghanistan, and that's where they learned, the basic mindset of what they're about. And then they're given veterans preferences to come in. There's very little training. So they transition from warrior to law enforcement officer without anybody making the distinction between the two. And then they're put out on the streets to interface with American citizens exercising their constitutional right. These cops don't even know what the Constitution is. They have been trained on it. All they know is to close with and destroy the enemy through superior firepower or superior muscle, which is what they did to that Emory professor. That's her campus. She owns that campus. She is top dog on that campus. She's the one who runs that stuff. She and her fellow professors, and they threw her down like a doll rag. No, this isn't what America's supposed to be. The police response to the faculty and students, here's where I will agree with Benjamin Netanyahu, more closely represents what was taking place in Nazi Germany than anything else. It's not the students that are at fault here. It's the response that's at fault. If we, the American people, we have to put an end to this. We have to let our elected officials know that this will not be tolerated.